Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. I wanted to take this opportunity to very humbly and bashfully say, I told you so! I told you so! Do you see what's going on in the news right now with Fluoride? Staged photo ops mentioning the CIA, with, of course, product placement. What's going on with Jeffrey Epstein? And, of course, the latest with the NSA, which, of course, we will conveniently get into in this particular video in yet another episode of What the Hell Really Happened. A show, actively censored and blocked by Google, of course, from the full viewing enjoyment of the general public. Only a select few get to hear this message, so congratulations, you're one of them. That gets to hear an independent voice that's supported by t-shirts. Yeah, we have t-shirts. I'm actually wearing one too, which, of course, support this independent media organization from continuing existing. So yeah, definitely check out the link below to our Teespring store, where now we have a plethora of many different t-shirts to fit your disdain for mainstream society. This one's my favorite. Now, moving forward with the news, if you know me in real life, you know that I am one of these people that facetiously always reminds you that fluoride calcifies your pineal gland. And today, we got new information from the JAMA Pediatrics prestigious medical journal, publishing a study that linked fluoride consumption during pregnancies with lower childhood IQs. A study that contradicts almost everything paid for top medical associations as well as government bodies have been telling you for a very long time. Now, this is important because there have been other previous studies done before that did consider that there would be a neurodevelopmental link with prenatal fluoride. Now, this, of course, was never substantiated until this recent study that just came out. Now, it's important to note here that 512 pregnant women from 6 different Canadian cities were used for this particular study, where they tested their fluoride intake and correlated with IQ tests that they did to their children when they were 3 or 4 years old, where they found the link between increased prenatal fluoride exposure with lower IQ scores in those children, calculating a 4.5 average drop in IQ being associated with 1 milligram per liter increase in concentration of fluoride. Specifically, this was found in boys. And yeah, what do you expect from a chemical that is the main active ingredient in rat poison and is a byproduct of industrial waste? Now, the people responsible for this study are even saying that the effects of fluoride are comparable to the effects of lead. Now, again, there's going to be more studies specifically around this that, of course, I'm going to be closely following. And again, highlights one of the reasons why we should always be questioning the government and, quote, authorities, which, of course, like the CDC in the United States, which declared that 3/4 of Americans drinking fluoride, which has been achieved, is one of the greatest public health achievements of the 20th century because it reduces tooth decay. Tooth decay, lowered IQ, dumbed down public. Which one do you think is important for you, and which one do you think is important for the authorities, right? Just think about that moving forward. But again, question everything, especially medical studies, by the way, that could be bought and paid for. So be skeptical of everything. Now, moving forward in the news with the actualization that elite pedophiles are still running around without any accountability or justice served to its victims, children, we're moving forward with the latest news about Jeffrey Epstein, where again, many of the criminals are still walking free because of our corrupt law enforcement system. Meanwhile, people like Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange are still behind bars as we're speaking right now, which is a travesty of justice. Now, as you know, a couple days ago, we covered the story of one of the handlers, one of the main pimps, one of the main procurers, allegedly, to Jeffrey Epstein, a, quote, socialite, whose father, by the way, was a prominent British politician with alleged ties to intelligence groups like Mossad. Now, this person that is being accused of facilitating Jeffrey Epstein's horrible crimes was, as we reported, photographed at a Los Angeles In-N-Out Burger reading a book about CIA assassinations, which, as we're finding out today, was actually not just staged by her friend and attorney, with even product placement for Seth Rogen's and Evan Goldberg's new film, which is called Good Boys, and has underage children in that movie playing with adult toys used for lovemaking. Again, family-friendly show here. But just when you thought the story couldn't be any stranger, they're actively promoting a film with children using adult toys in a psyop that has been staged for public consumption. Now, allegedly, the story that they tried to convince you with is that this was a photo that surprised Miss Maxwell, that had her sitting there perfectly looking at the camera with makeup on, even though it was supposedly a surprise photo, which, by the way, instead of being sold, was given to the media without any known licensing agreement, which would have earned the original photographer a lot of money. And again, this really makes you question what we see in the news media and how information is planted. And I mean, especially with her reading the book that's titled, quote, The Secret Lives and Deaths of CIA Operatives. And this, of course, was according to the New York Post. And of course, these are not just some of the inconsistencies with their stories. There's a lot of them. Also, with the new detail that we learned that Jeffrey Epstein signed and finished his will of close to $600 million just 2 days before he died. Which again, makes absolutely no sense at all. This is a man that, of course, just before that tried to commit suicide unsuccessfully, was somehow taken off suicide watch, was somehow removed from having an inmate, which he was supposed to be bunking with, which also somehow the mysteriously cameras just stopped working, quote, malfunction, and as, of course, he just signed his will over, which, of course, you need to be of sane mind and body to do so, which, of course, he was not, since days before he tried to kill himself. Now, of course, Epstein put his money in a trust, naming his brother as next of kin, but yet again, the authorities failed in this specific matter. And they're failing right now, including the reaction from the U.S. Attorney General and also from Donald Trump. And this is their move. They decided, through their investigation, to just remove the prison director, which this incredible criminal blatant act was committed in front of all of us with, and they decided just to remove him. This man deserves to go to jail for his crimes. And yet again, just like all the other hardened criminals here, he's just not even getting a slap on the wrist. He's just being told to move away. And of course, as we're finding out, all of this could have been easily prevented if the cops and the law enforcement actually did their job, which they failed. This could have been non-existent over 20 years ago. The countless numbers of children, of victims that were abused in unspeakable ways would have never happened if the law enforcement did their job. And they didn't. As even in 1997, there's very serious allegations made against Jeffrey Epstein, which the local police departments failed to investigate. Prince Andrew, by the way, royalty of the United Kingdom, who's surrounded in all of this with tapes, videos, photos of him with underage women that were allegedly procured and has done unspeakable things with, the police department is not even conducting an investigation against the very serious allegations and crimes against him, which, by the way, he's somehow appalled by these claims, which is absolutely baffling because otherwise, what, is it Jeffrey Epstein's personality that connected Prince Andrew so closely to this man and the small children that he was videotaped around? And again, this is disturbing to the greatest extent that could possibly exist in our society, because this is the realization, in fact, that elite pedophiles run the show and are above the law. The law doesn't matter. Your power matters. And if you're powerful in our society, you could be a sexual predator against children. And the system that so many people blindly trust will protect. So yeah, that's a realization we all need to have. Chew on that for a little bit. Again, a lot of these accusations are also coming out from the very grotesque and corrupt modeling industry. And it was revealed that this is an industry that Jeffrey Epstein was very connected to, with many people claiming that he was the man behind Victoria's Secret, with many underage women and just women in general meeting him for, quote, auditions where they were surprisingly attacked, allegedly. There's even accusations of the next top model scout procuring 12-year-old triplets from France as a birthday present to Jeffrey Epstein. And as I said again, the whole modeling Victoria's Secret industry is absolutely not just morally corrupt, but just criminal. I mean, look what they're pulling off in our face right now. I'm not even going to show you the images here because they're extremely grotesque and push the ultimate agenda that we've been seeing, the over disturbing trend, as Victoria's Secret just 2 years ago had shows where they dressed up 5-year-olds in lingerie. Again, this was in August of 2017, which is an important clarification here. But this is an industry that needs to be called out for its horrible behavior. Now, moving forward in some latest geopolitical and protest move, we are finding out that Twitter has just shut down over 200,000 alleged Chinese accounts for, quote, allegedly spreading disinformation about the Hong Kong protests. Twitter deems the Chinese government influence campaign, which creates a very interesting paradigm here of the important role of social media when it comes to civil unrest, and clarifies here and highlights here how big social tech media companies have a lot of influence that can be manipulated, especially for greater geopolitical goals, which many people have accused the United States for promoting, specifically also with the latest events unfolding in Hong Kong, which is something to think about. But even with that factor, I do believe that the current events unfolding in Hong Kong are mostly legitimate, especially from the few times that I've spent in Hong Kong, and the oppression and sometimes even torture that some of these protesters are facing is very real and does need to be called out. Now, this is important to bring up because U.S. mainstream media has been promoting the Hong Kong protest while, of course, ignoring other protests like the Yellow Vest movement because of greater geopolitical goals by the U.S. empire. And that's clearly understood here and does need to be understood here. And there's always two sides of the coin here, as NBC News has been caught pushing talking points by the Chinese government against these protests, which of course highlight the clear conflict of interest that NBC Universal has with, of course, the Chinese state-owned media companies that they have many projects with. So again, disinformation comes in many forms, but information always deserves to be questioned. And even though some media companies are criticizing the Chinese government and promoting the Hong Kong protest, it still needs to be understood here. The Chinese government overall is a government that was recently bragging, not hiding, bragging how its social credit ranking score system prevented 2.5 million people from buying plane tickets because they were described as, quote, discredited entities. And again, these are crimes of not believing the government, bad driving, smoking on trains, playing too many video games, jaywalking, criticizing the government, which lowers your credit score, which the government will deny you the access to travel of. And they do this with, of course, a full track, trace, and database system that, of course, Donald Trump is also fighting to bring back to the United States, as Donald Trump is requesting the permanent reauthorization of the NSA mass spying program, which of course was exposed by Edward Snowden, having ultimate ability to, of course, see, track, database, and record everything that you as an American citizen do. Not for your protection, which of course has been documented that this NSA program does not do, but for, of course, power and control. Just like any other government with its aspirations, those are always the main goal, as highlighted and exemplified as how it works specifically in China in our modern day. So yeah, question everything. I think that's the basis that you should always get while looking at the news. I still don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm still trying to re-strategize the way that I conduct myself and the work that I produce. I couldn't stop myself today because of just the important news that I had to share with you guys. And if you find this news important, share it with your friends and family members, because definitely it will be downranked in the algorithm. It will be demonetized. It won't be shared by, of course, Google. It will be driven down. But it's only you guys keeping me alive. But stay tuned. There's definitely going to be something different. There's definitely going to be a shift coming soon. I got some very exciting ideas that I'm really happy to present very soon. But regardless of that, I'm still here, and I'm still here because of you, and that's why I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.